You know those moments where reality smacks you in the face so hard you wonder how you didn't see it coming sooner? Yeah. That was me, Miles, 27 years old, standing alone on my birthday with a half-eaten cupcake and a card so bland it might as well have been from a random coworker who barely remembered my name. What's up, Reddit? Buckle up, because today, I'm serving a hot, fresh tale of golden child favoritism, complete with emotional whiplash, dramatic realizations, and the moment I finally said, "Nah, I'm good." Let's rewind a little. Growing up, my brother Caleb was the center of the universe in our house. If Caleb so much as sneezed, Diana and Frank, aka Mom and Dad, would act like he'd discovered the cure for the common cold. Meanwhile, I could quietly ace my exams, land a scholarship, or survive 3 consecutive existential crises, and the best I'd get was a distracted, "Oh, that's nice, honey." It wasn't just little stuff either. Caleb crashed a car at 17? New car by 18. I got straight A's and worked 2 part-time jobs. Well, that's what you're supposed to do, Miles. At first, I chalked it up to him being younger, needing more attention, the usual parental gymnastics. You know, the lies you tell yourself when you're a kid desperate for validation. But birthdays? Birthdays were the blaring siren of how differently we were treated. Every year, Caleb's birthdays were basically mini-weddings. Themed parties, custom cakes, professional photographers, and entire weekends booked at some fancy hotel or amusement park. Me? I got a small family dinner if Frank wasn't too tired from work and Diana wasn't too stressed from, not doing much beyond Facebook stalking her high school classmates. Still, I told myself it wasn't a big deal. Birthdays aren't everything, right? I had friends, hobbies, and a growing career. I didn't need validation from 2 people who couldn't even be bothered to remember how old I was half the time. Or so I thought. Then came my 27th birthday, the one that officially buried any lingering fantasies I had about things getting better. It started normally enough. I wasn't expecting much, maybe a text, maybe dinner if they were feeling generous. Instead, I got a voicemail from Diana. "Hey, honey! We dropped a little something off for you at the house. Hope you have a nice day. Love you." I wasn't even living there anymore. I had my own apartment across town, but whatever. Maybe they left a gift on the porch or something. I swung by later that afternoon. And there it was. A tiny, sad cupcake sitting on a paper plate, shoved under the doormat like some kind of depressing birthday Easter egg hunt. Next to it? A card. No money inside. No thoughtful note. Just, "Happy birthday, Miles. Hope it's a good one. Mom and Dad." No joke, my name wasn't even spelled correctly. They'd switched the I and the L, like they were guessing how English works. I stared at it, standing on the porch, feeling like I'd just been slapped with a wet sock. Meanwhile, Caleb? I later found out Diana and Frank had just spent a whole weekend at a luxury resort for his birthday. 5-star dinners. Spa treatments. A custom-designed watch with his initials engraved. I mean, at that point, it wasn't even favoritism. It was a full-on dynasty, and I was the forgotten cousin nobody remembered to send Christmas cards to. And for the first time, instead of brushing it off or laughing about it with friends, I just stood there thinking, what the hell am I still doing here? Because this wasn't about birthdays. It wasn't about cupcakes or cards. It was about realizing that no matter how much you work, achieve, or show up for people, they're never going to see you if they've decided someone else shines brighter. And that realization? It changes you. But if Diana and Frank thought I would eat that cupcake and move on like nothing happened, they clearly didn't know the man they raised. Because this was the beginning of the end. After standing on that porch like a complete idiot with my sad little cupcake and typo-ridden card, something in me snapped. Not the loud, dramatic kind of snap where you storm into the house, flip a table, and scream, "I'm done!" Although cinematic as hell, right? No, this was the quiet, cold, terrifying kind of snap. The kind where you realize you're done hoping. Done waiting for people who see you as background noise. I didn't even take the cupcake inside. I left it there under the mat, a sad little monument to everything wrong with my relationship with Diana and Frank. I got in my car, drove home, and sat on my couch staring at the wall. Not crying. Not raging. Just numb. Because when you grow up always being the afterthought child, you get used to pretending it doesn't bother you. You laugh it off. You grind harder. You tell yourself, one day they'll see. But eventually you realize they won't. Not because they're blind, but because they choose not to. And that's when it hit me. I didn't need them to see me. I just needed to stop waiting. That night, instead of moping, I called up my cousin Ella, one of the few family members who treated me like a human being instead of a second-class citizen. She picked up after 2 rings. Hey, birthday boy! What's up? I told her everything. The cupcake, the card, and the luxury weekend Caleb got. She didn't even try to sugarcoat it. Miles, that's insane. I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve that. And hearing someone say it out loud, someone acknowledging that, yeah, that was messed up, felt like the biggest weight lifting off my chest. Ella immediately invited me over. Not out of pity not to fix things, but because that's what people who care do. They show up. So I grabbed a bottle of cheap wine from my counter, classy, I know, and headed over. When I walked into Ella's apartment, she and her boyfriend Josh had decorated the living room with random birthday stuff they found at the dollar store, balloons, a crooked, happy birthday banner, and even a #1 trophy they said was for Best Miles. It wasn't a luxury resort. It wasn't custom watches or spa treatments. It was better. Because it was real. We ordered greasy pizza, drank bad wine, and watched terrible horror movies until we passed out on the couch. For the first time in forever, I didn't feel like I was competing for attention. I didn't feel like I was invisible unless I was useful. I just existed. And that night, lying on Ella's lumpy couch with half a slice of pizza stuck to my shirt, I realized something important. I wasn't unloved. I wasn't unworthy. I was just looking for love in the wrong places. I'd spent my whole life auditioning for parents who had already cast Caleb as the star, and no matter how good my performance, I was never getting the lead role. But out here, in the real world, with people like Ella and Josh, I didn't have to audition. I already had the part. And that realization set off a chain reaction I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. Because once you stop begging for crumbs, you start demanding the whole damn meal. And let me tell you, the next steps I took changed everything. Waking up on Ella's couch the next morning, still smelling faintly of pizza grease and dollar store helium balloons, felt better than any birthday I'd had in years. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. No forced smiles. No pretending not to notice when Diana and Frank's eyes slid right past me to Caleb like I was just an extra in his highlight reel. It was simple. It was genuine. And it flipped a switch in me that wasn't getting flipped back. When I got home later that day, I made a decision. No more chasing crumbs. No more last-minute card drops under welcome mats. No more hoping Diana and Frank would suddenly wake up and realize, oh wait, we have another son! If they couldn't see me for who I was, that wasn't my burden to carry anymore. And bro, when you finally let go of that desperate hope, you free up so much mental space you didn't even realize was being eaten alive. I threw myself into things that made me feel alive, not just useful. Started hitting the gym again, not because I wanted to flex on Instagram, but because moving my body felt like reclaiming it after years of feeling like I didn't deserve to take up space. I picked up old hobbies I'd abandoned because you'll never be good enough at that to make it matter. As Frank once so helpfully pointed out. I even went back to writing, a dream I'd buried deep after years of being told creative careers were for people who didn't want real jobs. And little by little, I started rebuilding. Not a new version of myself. Not some glowed-up revenge fantasy to throw in Caleb's face. Just me. Unapologetically me. Meanwhile, over in Calebland, cracks were starting to show. Word got around that Mr. Perfect Golden Child had some issues brewing. That luxury birthday weekend Diana and Frank had bankrolled wasn't just a celebration, it was a consolation prize. Caleb had flunked out of grad school, for the second time, and lost yet another internship because he couldn't be bothered to show up sober half the time. And guess who was quietly picking up the pieces behind the scenes? Yeah, Diana and Frank. They were pumping money, favors, and endless second chances into the human embodiment of, I'll get it right eventually. Meanwhile, the same people who barely remembered my birthday were out here mortgaging their pride to keep Caleb's golden child halo from slipping. Did it hurt to watch? Honestly? Not as much as I thought it would. Because when you stop defining your worth by the people who never valued you, watching their house of cards collapse feels less like tragedy and more like justice. I didn't gloat. I didn't text Ella with an "I told you so," even though we both knew. I just kept moving. And that momentum? It carried me somewhere I never expected. Because all those hours writing, all those late nights typing out stories no one was asking for, finally caught someone's attention, and suddenly, I was on the verge of a life that didn't just exist outside of Diana and Frank's shadow. It was a life where they didn't matter at all. But of course, when golden children start slipping, and the real world isn't as forgiving as your enabler parents, guess who they run back to? And guess who they expect to do the right thing and be the bigger person? So life's moving pretty good for me, right? Gym sessions, late night writing sprees, weekends spent with people who actually like me instead of tolerating my existence. It was honestly the healthiest I'd felt in years. Then came the text. No, not from Caleb. He's way too proud for that. This was from Diana. The woman who once misspelled my name on a birthday card was suddenly blowing up my phone with long, heartfelt messages about family unity, forgiveness, and how proud we are of everything you're doing. I didn't even have to guess what triggered this sudden burst of affection. Caleb's life was officially in freefall. Apparently, after getting booted from his second-grade program, racking up some serious debt, and getting dumped by his long-suffering girlfriend, he was back at Diana and Frank's house, lounging on the couch and making big promises about figuring it out, while eating their groceries and ignoring job applications. And guess who they thought should help him get back on his feet? Yeah. Me. Diana's messages were sprinkled with all the greatest hits. He's your brother, Miles. You're doing so well, you could help him find something. It's what family does, helps each other. Family helps each other. Except when it was my birthday, and family couldn't even remember how old I was. Funny how that works. Frank even got in on the action, sending me a 3-sentence email that felt like it was written at gunpoint. Caleb needs guidance. You've always been the responsible one. Step up. Step up. Like I was some kind of substitute parent for a 26-year-old man-child who couldn't figure out that maybe, just maybe, life doesn't hand you luxury weekends when you barely show up for yourself. I sat on that message for a day. Not because I was torn, not even close, but because part of me wanted to savor the moment. The moment when the kid they never prioritized suddenly became their last hope. The irony was just chef's kiss. Ella, when I told her about it, was ready to throw hands through the phone. If you so much as lift a finger to help them after everything, I swear to God, Miles. I laughed. She didn't need to worry. Because here's the thing about people who only show up when they need you. The second you show them you're no longer available, they lose their minds. And I was more than ready to let them spiral. I didn't send a long, emotional response. No lectures about favoritism. No breakdown of every time they failed to show up for me. They wouldn't have heard it anyway. Instead, I sent 2 words. Not interested. Blocked Diana's number. Blocked Frank's email. Blocked Caleb's inevitable guilt texts that I knew were coming. Done. Finished. Out. And bro, let me tell you, hitting block felt better than any closure speech I could have ever given. Because sometimes, the best way to win is to stop playing their game entirely. And the best part? While they were busy trying to guilt-trip me into being their human life raft, something incredible happened. That little writing hobby I'd been nurturing? It exploded. An agent reached out. A book deal offer followed. Actual, real-world validation from people who didn't share my last name, but respected my voice. And suddenly, the kid who wasn't worth more than a cupcake under the doormat? He was worth something. Not to Diana. Not to Frank. Not to Caleb. To himself. After blocking Diana, Frank, and Caleb, my phone felt weirdly quiet. No passive-aggressive texts. No guilt-drenched voicemails. No desperate, "Come home for dinner, we'll pretend none of this happened" invites. Just silence. And for the first time, silence didn't feel lonely. It felt like freedom. I could breathe. I could think without wondering what invisible expectation I was somehow failing. And right around the time I was settling into this brand new place, life decided to reward me for finally choosing myself. Remember all those late nights spent pouring my heart into my writing? The short stories, the half-finished novel drafts I was too scared to show anyone. Yeah. Turns out those weren't a waste of time after all. It started with a single email, this time from someone I wanted to hear from. A literary agent named Tyler stumbled across one of my online posts and wanted to talk. I thought it was spam at first. Because what are the odds, right? But Tyler was legit. He loved my voice. My style. Said he hadn't seen anything quite like it in a while. You've got something here, Miles. I think we could build on it. We had a few calls. He helped me polish my work, pitch it. And within months? Book deal. Real advance. Real contract. Real life. It wasn't millions. It wasn't a Hollywood blockbuster. But it was enough. Enough to know I didn't need Diana's approval. Enough to know I didn't need Frank's reluctant head nods. Enough to know I didn't need Caleb's shadow hanging over me like a constant reminder of what I was supposed to be. Because for the first time, I wasn't living in reaction to them. I was living for myself. I treated myself to a real celebration. Ella and Josh threw a tiny party at their place, pizza, cheap champagne, and a homemade cake that said, "Best Miles, now officially a published legend." And when I blew out the candles, after laughing at how the frosting was spelled, I realized I didn't wish for Diana and Frank to notice me anymore. I didn't wish for Caleb to respect me. I wished for more nights like this. More real smiles. More real people. And honestly, that wish was already coming true. Meanwhile, back in the land of golden child delusions, Caleb was still bouncing between life plans, like a kid trying on costumes at a dollar store. Last I heard from a mutual friend, he was trying to become a social media entrepreneur. Which is rich considering he could barely keep his email inbox organized without Diana hand-holding him through it. Diana and Frank? Still pretending everything was fine, still hosting family barbecues where Caleb got toasted as the future of the family, while I was reduced to whispered gossip. "Oh, we don't know what Miles is up to these days. He's just busy." Yeah, busy winning. But I didn't need to prove that to them. They weren't my audience anymore. Tyler became a mentor. Ella and Josh became my chosen family. And I, for the first time ever, became my own hero. I thought about sending Diana a signed copy of my book when it was published. You know, one final, elegant mic drop. But then I thought, why waste postage? They had spent years pretending I didn't exist unless it was convenient. Now, I was more than willing to return the favor. With my book deal signed, my first draft polished, and my life finally steering into the lane I chose, there was a weird, quiet time afterward. Not bad weird. Not something's missing. Weird. Just different. Because when your whole life has been one long, desperate audition for love that was never coming, suddenly standing center stage with no one to perform for feels almost alien. At first I thought, is this loneliness? But nah. It wasn't loneliness. It was peace. For the first time in forever, I wasn't measuring my worth by how often Diana called, or whether Frank bothered to attend whatever milestone I quietly achieved. I wasn't checking my phone for backhanded birthday messages. I wasn't waiting for Caleb's shadow to fall over whatever light I built for myself. I was just living, breathing, existing. And holy hell, bro, it was glorious. But even with that new peace, the idea of family still stuck in my head sometimes. I mean, it's drilled into you from the jump, right? Family comes first. You only have one family. Blood is thicker than water. Turns out, that's a lie. Because blood might be thicker than water, but loyalty is thicker than blood. And love? Real love? That's thicker than all of it. I didn't need people who shared my DNA but treated me like a backup plan. I needed people like Ella, who showed up with dollar store decorations and a terrible birthday cake when nobody else remembered. I needed people like Josh, who called me legend every time I doubted myself, even when the most legendary thing I'd done that day was eat an entire box of Pop-Tarts at 2 a.m. I needed people like Tyler, who believed in my voice before I believed in it myself. That's family. Family isn't who shares your last name. It's who shows up when you're low. It's who cheers for you without jealousy. It's who sees your value without needing you to earn it. Once I realized that, everything got simpler. I didn't feel bitter about Diana and Frank anymore. I didn't rage about Caleb's endless second chances. I pitied them. Because they missed out. They missed out on watching me grow. They missed out on celebrating my wins. They missed out on the person I became when I stopped trying to fit into a mold they built for someone else. They chose a fantasy version of family values over the messy, beautiful reality of loving a child for who they are, not for what they could do to make you look good. And that's their loss. Not mine. One night, while celebrating with Ella and Josh again, because real friends find any excuse to throw a party, Ella asked me something that stuck. We were 3 drinks deep, arguing over what the worst candy bar ever invented was. It's Necco wafers, no debate, when she suddenly got serious. Miles, if you could go back, like really go back, and change things, would you? And honestly, it took me about half a second to answer. No. Not a damn thing. Because every slight, every forgotten birthday, every moment of being the invisible son, it all pushed me to where I was now. Strong. Free. Whole. I didn't get the family I thought I deserved. I got something better. I became my own family first. And now, anyone who wants to be part of my life? They had to deserve that privilege. No more auditions. No more proving. If you didn't see my worth from the start, you don't get a seat at my table when the feast starts. Simple as that. But before I wrap this up, there's one last twist. The moment that officially closed the chapter on the old life I left behind and made it crystal clear that choosing myself was the best thing I ever did. A few months after the book announcement went live, I started getting little hints that Diana and Frank had seen it. Not from them directly, of course. No, that would require humility. It was more like the sudden uptick in old high school family friends sliding into my DMs with fake enthusiasm. Saw you're publishing a book. That's so cool. Your parents must be so proud. Bet Caleb's jealous, huh? And honestly, that last one made me laugh harder than anything. Because if there's one thing golden children hate, it's watching the invisible siblings succeed without their stage lights. But still, no call. No email. No carrier pigeon from Diana and Frank. Which, weirdly enough, felt like its own kind of closure. Because it confirmed what I already knew. They never wanted me to succeed on myself. They only wanted to brag about me for them. If they couldn't control it? If they couldn't shape it into a shiny trophy they could flash around at dinner parties? It wasn't worth mentioning. And honestly, that was fine. Because I wasn't doing this for them. I wasn't doing it for Caleb. I wasn't even doing it for little kid Miles, who used to blow out birthday candles and wish so hard to be seen. I was doing it for the man who finally saw himself. When the book officially launched, Ella and Josh threw another ridiculous party. More dollar store balloons. Another homemade cake with the words, New York Times bestseller, manifesting it early. Badly iced and slightly crooked, but perfect. There were no fancy champagne toasts. No luxury resorts. No staged family photos for Facebook. Just me, the people who showed up when I had nothing but dreams, and a simple, powerful moment of arrival. Midway through the night, as I stood outside on the porch with a drink in hand, Ella came up next to me and bumped my shoulder. So, any regrets? I smiled. Yeah. She raised an eyebrow. I regret not walking away sooner. Because here's the thing, Reddit. Sometimes you spend your whole life trying to prove you're worthy of a seat at someone else's table. When really? You were supposed to build your damn table the whole time, and invite people who bring something to it besides demands. And if there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that you don't need closure from people who refuse to open the door in the first place. You just walk away. You thrive. And you live so loudly, so authentically, that their absence becomes background noise you barely notice anymore. So to Diana, Frank, and Caleb, wherever you are, scrolling through social media, pretending you're happy for me while choking on your ego. Thanks. Thanks for making it so easy to leave. Thanks for showing me what love shouldn't look like. And thank you most of all for teaching me that sometimes, family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shares your heart. And Reddit, now I'll leave you with this. If your family treated you like a background character your whole life, and then tried to guilt you back when you succeeded, would you forgive them, or leave them behind for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I know some of you out there have your own golden child battle scars. And remember, you don't owe loyalty to people who never saw you. You owe loyalty to the person you're becoming. Catch you in the next one, Reddit. Stay strong, stay sharp, and never let anyone else dim your shine.